In the gritty, deprived housing schemes of North Glasgow, where hope was a scarce commodity and the gray sky often felt like a ceiling, a criminal empire was born. This is not a tale of mafiosos in tailored suits, but a raw, brutal story of how one family, forged in the fires of poverty and desperation, clawed its way to the top of Scotland's criminal underworld. They would become one of the nation's most notorious and feared crime syndicates, building a dynasty on the insidious trade of drug trafficking and a capacity for unimaginable violence. This is the story of their rise, their reign, and the bloody war that came to define them. This is the case of the Daniel crime family. But to truly understand the decades of bloodshed and the chilling legacy they would leave, we have to rewind to a single, pivotal moment. A moment of betrayal that would act as the spark in a powder keg. In the year 2001, a significant stash of cocaine belonging to the powerful Daniel family vanished. This wasn't a random smash and grab. The culprits were brazen, they were connected, and they were rivals. They were part of the Lyons family, who not only stole the drugs, but had the audacity to sell them on the streets. In the unwritten code of the underworld, this was more than theft. It was a profound insult, a direct challenge to their authority, a declaration of war. This single event plunged Glasgow into a bloody, terrifying Gangland feud that would span decades, leaving a trail of bodies from the city's back alleys to the sun-drenched coasts of Spain, shaping the city's Gangland landscape forever. The rise from poverty. The Daniel crime family dynasty emerged from the tough, unforgiving streets of Postle Park, a corner of Glasgow where opportunity was a foreign concept and survival was a daily, grinding battle. The world was harsh, and it bred hard men. At the head of this burgeoning clan was Jamie Daniel, a name spelled Jamie in some reports, but a figure who was unequivocally the patriarch and undisputed boss until his death from cancer in 2016. His path was forged early. After his father died when he was just 10 years old, Jamie was thrust into a brutal environment that nurtured a violent streak. It was a trait he would later learn to weaponize, channeling it into the cold, calculated world of organized crime. While the older, more established Glasgow gangs were stuck in their ways, focusing on loan sharking, protection rackets, and armed robbery, the Daniels had a different, more modern vision. Jamie Daniel, in particular, was a strategist. He saw the shifting tides and recognized a new, far more lucrative path: the large-scale trafficking of drugs. This wasn't just about street corner dealing. Jamie forged crucial, high-level links with international suppliers, creating a pipeline to bring high-purity heroin, cocaine, and other drugs into the country. This move allowed the Daniels to build a formidable, vertically integrated distribution network that would soon dwarf their rivals' operations. Their greatest strength, and what made them so formidable, was their structure. They operated as a tight-knit, fiercely loyal family business. Key positions, the ones involving money, supply, and enforcement, were held by sons, nephews, relatives, and trusted in-laws. This insular structure made them incredibly difficult for rivals, or indeed the police, to penetrate with informants. Jamie's sons and key associates, like his nephew Stephen Bonzo Daniel, acted as senior members and lieutenants, enforcing the family's will on the streets with an iron fist. By the mid-2000s, their influence was immense, their network vast, and their profits astronomical. But in the world of crime, power is never absolute. Their dominance was constantly being challenged, and while they were major players in the lucrative Scottish drug market, they were now locked in a fierce, violent, and deeply personal competition for control with the ambitious and equally ruthless Lyons clan. This was a family that climbed out of poverty to build an empire. Do you see their story as a tragic outcome of circumstance or a cold-hearted choice? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're finding this story compelling, hit that like button to let us know. The Enforcer and the Alien Abductions. Every criminal empire, no matter how sophisticated, needs an enforcer, a figure whose reputation for violence alone is enough to maintain order and instill fear. For the Daniel family, that man was Gerbil Carroll. Married to Jamie Daniel's daughter, Kelly. Carroll was more than just family by marriage. He was a living, breathing weapon. His reputation for extreme, almost psychopathic violence was legendary. By the late 2000s, police intelligence reportedly considered him one of the most dangerous and volatile criminals in the whole of Scotland, a man who saw violence not as a last resort, but as a primary business tool. Carroll was allegedly the architect of a particularly terrifying series of attacks that became known on the streets by a chillingly bizarre name: alien abductions. The method was as effective as it was sadistic. He and his crew would snatch rival dealers, underworld figures who had crossed the family, or simply anyone who owed a significant debt. These victims would vanish, taken to secluded locations where they were subjected to horrific torture. Afterwards, they would be unceremoniously dumped, often so physically and psychologically traumatized that they claimed to have no memory of what had happened or who had taken them. This tactic was pure, malevolent genius. It spread maximum fear throughout the underworld while leaving behind minimal evidence for the police. The alien abduction became a core part of the Daniel family's method of control, a brutal but highly effective tool for debt collection and asserting absolute dominance. But make no mistake, Carroll wasn't just a mindless thug. He was a high-earning, ambitious criminal in his own right. Some media outlets reported that he was making a staggering £250,000 a year from his own side dealings in the cocaine trade. His terrifying capacity for violence was matched only by his ambition and his hunger for both money and power. It was this volatile combination that made him an indispensable asset to the Daniels, but also painted a giant target on his back, making him the #1 target in the escalating, bloody war with the Lyons. The story of Kevin Gerbil, Carroll, and the alien abductions is one of the most chilling chapters in this saga. If you're fascinated by the psychology of these underworld figures, make sure you're subscribed to the channel for more deep dives. Now let's get back to how that violence spiraled out of control. A feud ignites. The 2001 cocaine theft wasn't just a business loss. It was a burning insult that lit the fuse on a bomb that had been years in the making. The Daniels, led by their calculating patriarch Jamie, saw the Lyons move as a direct, public challenge to their authority. And in their world, such challenges could only have one answer: overwhelming retaliation. In September of that same year, the response came. A gunman attempted to execute Stephen Lyons, a key figure in the rival family, outside a pub in the Lyons stronghold of Lamb Hill. The gunman missed his target, but the message was delivered with the clarity of a gunshot in the night. The war was on. A bloody cycle of tit-for-tat violence began, transforming parts of Glasgow into a war zone. Drive-by shootings and firebombings of homes and businesses became frighteningly common, as each side sought to wound and intimidate the other. The feud simmered and boiled for years, but it reached a new level of savagery on a cold December day in 2006. In a brazen, shockingly public attack, two of Kevin Carroll's most trusted associates walked into a garage linked to the Lyons family in broad daylight. They were there to send the ultimate message. Inside, they executed 21-year-old Michael Lyons, shooting him dead in cold blood. Two other men, including the primary target, Stephen Lyons, were seriously injured in the premeditated hit. This was no longer just a street fight or a rivalry. This was a calculated execution designed to cripple the Lyons clan both emotionally and strategically. The sheer audacity of the crime forced the justice system to respond with unprecedented force. The two Daniel hitmen, Raymond Anderson and James MacDonald, were eventually caught and handed what were, at the time, the longest murder sentences in Scottish legal history. Each was ordered to serve a minimum of 35 years behind bars, a sentence later reduced to 30 years on appeal. The judge described the killing as a cold-blooded, premeditated execution. But even a punishment of that magnitude, a sentence meant to send a shockwave through the underworld, couldn't stop the bleeding. The thirst for revenge was now too strong, the hatred too deep. The war would continue. The courts delivered a historic sentence, but the violence didn't stop. Do you believe harsh prison sentences are an effective deterrent for this level of organized crime? Share this video with a friend who loves true crime and debate it in the comments. The public execution. On January 13, 2010, the brutal feud between the Daniels and the Lyons produced its single most infamous and shocking moment. Kevin "Gerbil" Carroll, the Daniels' fearsome enforcer, the man behind the alien abductions, was sitting in a black Audi A3 in the car park of an Asda supermarket in Royston, Glasgow. It was the middle of the day, a scene of absolute normality filled with shoppers going about their mundane errands. Suddenly, that normality was shattered. In front of horrified families and pensioners, a group of masked assailants approached the car. They were professionals. They raised their weapons and fired multiple shots into the vehicle, killing Kevin Carroll instantly. It was one of the most public and audacious gangland assassinations Scotland had ever witnessed. The choice of location was a statement in itself, a declaration that no place was safe, no one was untouchable. The investigation that followed was complex and fraught with challenges. A known Lyons family associate, Ross Monaghan, was charged with the murder, but in a major blow to the prosecution, he was later acquitted in 2012 due to what the judge ruled was insufficient evidence. It wasn't until 2015 that another man, William Patterson, was finally convicted of Carroll's murder and sentenced to serve a minimum of 22 years. The investigation also unearthed a deeply troubling element: corruption from within the police force itself. The case reportedly exposed leaks, with at least one police constable being jailed for passing confidential intelligence related to the feuding gangs to his own criminal contacts, a sign of how deeply the conflict had permeated Scottish society. The brazen execution of Gerbil was a massive psychological victory for the Lyons clan. They had taken out the Daniels' most feared player in the most public way imaginable. It was a devastating blow to the Daniel family's power, prestige, and morale. The death of their enforcer marked a definitive turning point in the war. The balance of power in Glasgow's violent underworld was beginning to shift dramatically and bloodily. A public assassination in a supermarket car park is the stuff of movies, but this was terrifyingly real. What do you think this did to the public's sense of safety? If you want to find out how this war went global, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss what happens next. The empire crumbles and the war goes global. Following the spectacular public execution of Kevin Carroll, the Daniel family's iron grip on power began to visibly weaken. The loss of their chief enforcer and the psychological impact of the hit left them reeling. The war, however, raged on. A series of reprisal attacks targeted figures on both sides, including Ross Monaghan, the man who was acquitted of Carroll's murder. In a clear act of revenge, Monaghan survived being shot in 2017 outside his own daughter's primary school. But the most significant and irreversible blow to the Daniel dynasty came not from a bullet, but from biology. In 2016, the patriarch, the founder, the strategist, Jamie Daniel, died of cancer. His death created a massive power vacuum at the very top of the organization. Without its leader, the family structure began to fracture, and some underworld sources began to whisper that the once mighty Daniel family was finished as a force. In stark contrast, the Lyons clan adapted and evolved. While the Daniels were struggling with internal succession, their rivals went international. The reputed boss of the family, Stephen Lyons, is believed to have relocated first to the criminal havens of Spain and then to the opulent sanctuary of Dubai. From there, he reportedly began building powerful international connections. It has been widely alleged that the Lyons clan became strategically aligned with Ireland's notorious and powerful Kinahan cartel, one of Europe's most dominant drug trafficking organizations. In effect, the Lyons allegedly became the Kinahan's Scottish franchise, granting them access to international supply lines and a level of global reach the Daniels could no longer compete with. But wherever the Lyons went, the violence of the Glasgow feud was destined to follow. The hatred was portable. In a shocking development in May 2025, the war exploded onto the international stage. Eddie Lyons Jr. and Ross Monaghan, the same man who had survived the school shooting, were both shot dead by a masked gunman at a bar on Spain's Costa del Sol. Spanish authorities and underworld sources immediately suspected that the professional, high-profile hit was an act of revenge ordered by the Daniel side as part of the long-running, hate-fueled feud. The fact that this war, born in a Glasgow housing scheme, could result in a double assassination in a Spanish holiday resort decades later is staggering. Press the share button and send this to someone who needs to hear this story. It's a stark reminder that these conflicts don't just fade away. For over 2 decades, the savage war between the Daniels and the Lyons has carved a deep, bloody scar across the landscape of Scotland and beyond. It is a chilling saga that transformed from a bitter dispute over stolen drugs in a deprived Glasgow housing scheme into a sprawling, transnational conflict. A conflict that now allegedly involves powerful cartel alliances and targeted assassinations on foreign soil. This feud has seen patriarchs die, fearsome enforcers executed in public supermarket car parks, and key players gunned down in Spanish holiday resorts. It's a story of shifting power, where one family's empire crumbled under the weight of death and internal strife, while the other adapted, went global, and allegedly forged alliances with some of the most dangerous criminals in Europe. While many underworld sources have claimed for years that the Daniel family's power is broken, the brazen international hits suggest that the deep-seated, generational hatred remains as potent as ever. The cycle of violence, it seems, continues to turn, proving that in the Glasgow underworld, some blood feuds never truly die. They just change location. What do you think is next for these warring families? Is this the final chapter, or just the beginning of a new, even more dangerous international phase of the war? Let us know your theories in the comments section below. And if you found this deep dive into the criminal underworld fascinating, please don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more true crime stories you won't find anywhere else.